minute, you can take around 5-6 minutes to cover all the K23 one, including this, etc. Okay, right?
Sure, sir. Sure,
good.
Sir.
My idea of a keynote is to cover all the issue on it. You will open out in a very large way.
Right, sir.
Under basement, I will not talk more than 1 minute. You can take around 5-6 minutes to cover all the K23 one, including. Oh, my voice is coming. Right? Are you replaying or what?
I think replaying is happening. Oh, I think he started recording now.
No, that was on the YouTube. I just broadcasted that on YouTube. Now we are also on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
You're opening out also on vertical compartmentation.
Prasanna is moved away, sir. So it's
okay,
not...
no problem. No problem.
Prasanna, Mr. Suresh was asking something.
Yeah, Prasanna, you will also be, I didn't from your presentation one, on vertical compartmentation also you'll be touching in detail? Horizontal, going from one floor to another vertical.
Vertical.
Fortunately, no, I think, no, Warik is touching on that. That's why very keen. Warik Saab was there.
I didn't do that.
Warik Saab, very good morning, Warik Saab.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning,
you look absolutely fab, sir. Sir, if you can kindly put your head a little more, sir, on your camera. Yeah. Better. Wonderful. All of our heads should be 3/4 of the size, correct. Sir, I'm sure he's not touching on vertical compartmentation. I'll be touching on that. So I'm sure your presentation, which I saw earlier and now also, is going from floor to floor. Also, you're giving no vertical compartmentation. You're touching on that?
Yeah. I will touch on that. No issues.
Yeah, because he is not touching. Prasanna is not touching. Therefore, it's good. And it's also a talmail. I mean, between your presentation and his presentation, there are large amount of areas instead of talking the same thing. But I'll very briefly talk for about half a minute on vertical compartmentation in my 12 minutes keynote. So you can open out on that particular thing, how important. I'm also talking where the height is more than around 4 meters height over there, how you will have to take for the type of security, especially on the industrial floors.
Yes.
You are having on that. Possibly you will touch on that, sir. I'm sure.
Yes.
Wonderful. I think would you have seen both the presentations, sir? They can load it, no problem, no glitches. Dominic?
I have already shared with Dom. Dom, you have received it, no?
Yeah, I have received, but you can share. There is a screen called sharing.
Share
Yeah.
I
screen.
have to
Yeah,
stop. You want to try
Yeah.
now?
I can
Prasanna
try. No
already did
problem.
it. Santosh also can do it.
I will do it. Just
Okay,
a
I'll
minute.
stop sharing. No, you can do it.
Now you can see.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So why it is not? Yeah. So in this, there are some slides where we can explain vertical this.
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your popular
Here,
slide. I
here,
know.
yeah, this is the
Oh,
stack
it'll make
effect and
it'll make a
leapfrog
fan,
effect.
yeah, it'll make a
Both
fantastic
we can
impact.
explain. This
Yeah,
is
it'll make a,
right hand side greenfield fire and the scenario and leapfrog effect also we
Yeah.
can explain over here.
I like the previous slide. The previous slide, one area earlier, just now.
Yes.
I like the spread
Yeah.
going from the wall through the outer glass, the hole going up. That is a
Yes.
wonderful effect. You should, particularly because modern buildings have this problem. It will
Yeah.
make a good impact,
This is,
sir. It will make a very good
this
impact.
is
sir.
right hand side is the glass facade issue.
Yeah.
So that we can explain.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
there are few in this also we can explain vertical shafts going up and down,
Yeah.
horizontal
Yeah.
shafts,
Yeah.
which can lead to the spread of fire
Yeah.
and how to contain the fire. This is we can explain this in the ducts basically.
I think I am briefly touching upon ductless venting system and axial fans. I think you are also covering partly on that for smoke extraction. You're putting
Yes,
that?
yes.
Yeah, I'm touching on that also. It will be useful because my idea is my keynote should cover all the key areas and each one of you will spread it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes on each of those in a large way. And fortunately, both your presenters complementing so well, even though you have done it independently. Let me congratulate both of you. I think hats off the way you have done it on that. It will make a visually a great impact. Take my word.
Thank you, sir.
It will. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm also saying certain occupancy where height of ceiling is above 4 meters. These are for industrial floors. You can open out on higher floors when you have that. What type of things, especially I'll put over there, especially larger, sometimes even data centers where the story heights are high, or even some IT parks also some story heights are higher. And of course, your logistics buildings in a very large way. Yeah, I think you're covering that. Structural integrity and the buckling of the column and all that.
Yes.
Excellent. I think three of us together should make a good impact. It's a very important topic. One of the finest topics, and I'm very happy that Dominic has selected this theme. Good. And fortunately, all our voice, everything is fine now. We can hear. Sir, 3 minutes more. Dominic?
Okay, sorry. We have now 74 participants out of 768. I think 770 now. We have 770 registrations.
So wait up to crossing 100, 125, then.
Yeah. We can.
11,
I think people will be logging at 11 because we said 11 o'clock.
Yeah, so, we can wait. We can wait for 3. Yeah, it's 77, 78, increasing every minute one by one. 79, 80. We can all see the
Sir, you can, Santosh sir, you can stop the sharing. Then I'll welcome screen. I will share.
Yeah, you can stop it there, sir.
Yeah.
You can put the other larger one where who will speak, etc.
Yes, sir. Sir, today there was a fire in Borivali.
Mall, big mall.
shopping mall में some 18 yeah. Any casualties there?
No, not reported yet. Majority of malls are closed, no? In
But I
Mumbai.
said, how can fire can happen? I don't know. Maybe electrical short circuit होगा ये सब standard.
Dominic, I shouldn't take more than the 12, 13 minutes. The moment you're pretty close, just give me a small little hint or say some way by which you attract my attention. So I close it because, once you get into the mood, mine is the extempo presentation. I'm not reading anywhere. So there's a tendency on my side to speak with too much emotion and passion. So you should curb me down, and I should not take more than the 15 minutes. Okay?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Give more time to both.
You are speaking free, sir. You are full of knowledge, so you wanted to give it to the others. So
yes,
it is obvious.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, really. And this is and can I tell you, compartmentation 1970 version was very poor. 83 version was reasonably good, but 2005 version was a large leap forward. But 2016 version has really taken it to some real good. This is forward. It's good.
Yes, but the issue is a certifying agency, the trained personnel.
I'm touching. I'm touching on that.
Yeah.
I'm touching on that. I'm touching on two things: the process of compliance and how do you do at the physical planning level, and between the architects, engineers, and the MEP of fire protection engineers. How do you ensure? Because if it is not a physical wall being separation, what is the way by you are doing over there is a very important component. So how do you do the particular thing of alternative to physical compartmentation? Physical to ठीक है, दीवार तो हो जाएगा, 120 minutes का fire resistance होगा, all those details will be there. But otherwise, what all things to be done, and how do you do the curtains and all the particular fire curtains and all those details, especially parking area, becomes very, very important.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. We are on dot, sir. Oh, we are 121.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock now, so
125, 127.
11:1. Should we wait for 2 minutes?
It's 128 now.
Raman Kapoor has commented. He is into that fire curtain and smoke curtain. No?
Yeah. I'm very briefly making a mention on differentiation between fire curtain and smoke curtain. Okay.
Yeah.
Provided come up with fire smoke curtain create smoke reservoirs for smoke mitigation. And we are covered in the NBC for the escalators. The smoke curtain is already provided there. Yes. Figure 3 of NBC covers that detail.
Yes. I'm showing that figure.
Oh, wonderful. Great.
Yeah.
Real good talmela. You know, what is good is all the three of us have independently made the presentation. Independently. Not even consulted with each other. But finally, what is coming is a beautiful amalgam. 152.
Yes, so I think we should start without much delay.
Yes.
Dominic, all the best. Start.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning to all of you here. It's a wonderful morning, and today's topic, the compartmentation of space, and our focus is on National Building Code 2016. So the fire prevention and protection focus is shifting from active passive fire protection. So passive fire protection is in the radar in many ways by the builder, by the architect, by the consultant. So compartmentation is a crucial, important aspect of any effective fire safety strategy. In fact, these benefits have today become necessity in buildings. It involves the divisions of larger space into smaller spaces. In the event of fire, the spread of fire and smoke can be restricted and even controlled by subdividing the areas up into various fire compartments. So compartmentation, unsurprisingly, brings with many safety benefits. In fact, these benefits have today become necessity again. So I am proudly present you the wonderful speaker today. We have the keynote speaker, Mr. Vasudev Suresh, who's more known as V. Suresh, is a civil engineer from Anna University with over 53 years of professional experience in the housing, infrastructure, rural and urban development, and built environment sector. He has worked in Tamil Nadu PWD for 1.5 years, and he moved to BAS, Bureau of Indian Standard, for 12.5 years, and was directly associated with formulation of leading national standards and codes and national building codes, and is now the vice chairman of National Building Code Selection Committee and chairman Housing Planning and Prefabricated Construction Section Committee of BAS. Is a former chairman and managing director of Housing and Urban Development Corporation, known as HUDCO, and is a current chairman of Indian Green Building Council, IGBC, and the vice chairman of NBC. He has received 15 distinguished awards for recognition of his work, few to mention. Best Chief Executive of the Year by National Foundation of Indian I forgot that. IAM Millennium of Top CEO Award for Excellence, Man of the Decade, Habitat, the International Award from Vistex Foundation 2000, Griha Nirman Maharishi Award, Eminent Engineer Award, Architectural Engineering Award, Engineer of the Year by the Engineers India, Industry Dawn, and Outstanding Contribution to Real Estate Development Award by CWI in 2013. Mr. V. Suresh, the most vibrant, most knowledgeable, most humble person that I have come across in my 33 years of in the fire industry. He never said no to any of our requests, but anything related to safety, he is the first person to come forward. I have seen him in attending many various seminars in FSA. He'll be the first man to come on time, and he occupied the first bench of the seminar. Even though he is just young, 70 plus, he's still hungry for knowledge. I welcome our keynote speaker, V. Vasudevan sir.
Very happy. Good morning, Dominic. Thank you very much for the good introduction. And to my fellow panelists, very distinguished fellow panelists, Santosh Warik sir, as well as Prasanna Kumarji, both of them being experts in their own area. My keynote that I'm going to present would give you a small bird's eye view on some of the major issues on this very critical topic we have identified, and really congratulate Dominic for having identified this topic. Very rarely this is coming up in national seminars, and to me this is one of the most important component, because the whole issue of compartmentalization is a very vital part of the fire safety in the design of a building, and seeks to divide larger spaces into smaller, more manageable ones should a fire occur. Very simply put, this is the whole idea of the particular thing. And fire compartment is also used to create safe, protected means of escape for the building occupants also. And compartmentation is therefore the most important aspect in designing safe building, as rightly Dominic said, through passive fire protection. Even though the word passive word is coming over there, the one which can create the compartment effect sometimes can be passive through walls or also through active methodologies, through the various other methods in case larger space you can't have physical barriers coming on that. And therefore, the whole subject of compartment within a building is to contain, limit, and spread of fire and smoke. And in its design of the buildings at the level of architects, physical planning of the building, spatial planning of the building, and the engineers who are civil engineers who are working along with this has to ensure there is no spread of fire to adjacent areas, including through leakages and openings through ducts. You'll very shortly know horizontal compartmentalization and vertical compartmentalization will shortly come over there, openings, etc. And the National Building Code of India, which is actually the most important guiding document in this particular area, literally mandatory document by all fire protection agencies, even though it's a recommendatory document. Otherwise, the NBC Part 4 has really got the right level of acceptance by the industry as well as by the regulators, fire service and rescue service team members, and even municipal corporation and municipalities. And the code really requires compartmentalization of the floor areas in various spaces into certain amount of limited one, with an approach to control, as I said, the spread of fire, to avoid the entire floor plate being gutted in fire, which will pose challenges to define in place and also compromise the property protection if the beyond a certain area. I'll tell about the area in a minute. And for me, compartmentalization is allowed as a wonderful fire barrier. It gives an opportunity to design, to use wall and other elements as fire resistance rating, which will help create compartment to contain the fire during the fire distress. And as any compartment is planned, each of the compartments should have its planned exit also equally important, because you got to get out of this into a way of safe exits, and therefore design of the compartment also should have as a component access towards the exits, either one directly or through another access which can come into a large way. And therefore we should also have this component where some of the things on compartment issues related to the exits and related one also becomes an important component, even though not the main component that's coming in this particular sector. And in this context, the major issue that comes into everybody's mind are the issues on passive fire protection, what all needs to be done. That which can compartmentalize a particular thing and use the fire resistant rated walls as well as the floors. A compartment is always from the floor level up to the ceiling level. So therefore, you're able to hold the particular space into a large one. And when your horizontal compartmentalization is compartmentalizing the floor or the building into smaller spaces, and so that it will be able to ensure that the spread doesn't take place horizontally of fire or the smoke into a large way. And other areas which can this can happen is obviously space around electrical cables, conduits passing through the common wall. It can be at the within the same compartment, can come on the wall, or it can go from one floor to another through the roofs, etc. I'm sure our distinguished speakers will open out on each of this into minute detail. So these openings can be a very major concern area. They require you rightly sealed through appropriate mechanism, which are physical as well as other methodologies there. We have to also keep the aspect into a very large way. Equally important component is the centrally air-conditioned buildings, the AHU rooms, etc. serve more than one floor. As far as possible, our idea is to see that each one of them serve only one floor, AHU per floor. That's increasingly coming into a large way. And it is the right time for me to talk about what is the present National Building Code Part 4, the fire and life safety component comes over there. I would say international document wise, the NFPA document, the BIS document, other document like Singapore Code, Shanghai Code, etc. Our National Building Code Part 4 is one of the finest treatises on this particular subject. Personally, seeing the first version of 1970, 83 version and 2005 version, 2016 version really is a state-of-the-art knowledge on the subject, and India can be very proud of that particular thing. We have put at this particular point of time the minimum area of one compartment to about 750 square meters, and we can have anything beyond that. We can have a second compartment coming on this particular side, and then the fire resistance rating of that particular compartment's wall should be a minimum of 2 hours or 120 minutes. So what is that particular medium by which I'll get that 120 minutes of fire resistance? Our issues, I'm sure our distinguished speakers will open out into minute detail, and that's an important component. And the code further opens out. It has a large amount of uses coming over there. As you are aware, A to J is coming there. But I think most important area is, for example, basements are a concern area. Basements with car parking, basements other than car parking. You can have both cases. So basements with car parking, we can have 3,000 square meters of compartment coming. Basements without car parking, we have 2,000 square meters over there. Hospitals are very important these days. Very important. Amri Hospital, we have paid the price. So many hospital fires, we have paid the price on that. Not more than 1,800 square meters is the limit for that. And the institutional buildings, which are where the physical movement of the people are going to be restricted, and that particular one is about 1,125 square meter. Mercantile building, which will have all your malls and all that. Today morning, we had a fire in Bombay in one of the leading malls. 18 fire fighting equipments are trying to fight the fire. I really don't know how it started, but shopping malls are an important component which also has to be there for retail spaces. There, the limit of the space is 2,000 square meter. Assembly buildings are large, people congregate at a time. Evacuation, there is the load is not, but people's evacuation is very important, is 2,000 square. Only business buildings or office buildings, which are larger office spaces, which are bank spaces, all corporate offices, all institutions, that's the highest one of 3,000 square meters. So a differentiated scale of 1,125 square meters to 1,800 square meter, 2,000 square meter, 3,000 square meter, different areas of maximum size of compartment are available. So how do you create within that maximum area? These particular compartmental space is a very important component. And we also have to particularly be worried about the basement as an important component. All modern buildings do provide 2, 3, or 4 basements. Code permits that particular one. And we would like to have effective compartmentalization coming in this particular area. And we should also have distinct air intake and air exhaust system. I'm sure one of the speakers will open out on that. How do you make that happen over there for different particular areas of the basement, including separate fire protection systems for that particular area of the basement also requires to be done in those components area. Especially basement parking in detail, NBC covers in very minute detail. Compartmentation can be done either through a fire barrier or using water nozzle, K23 sprinklers, we call it, very popularly known as K23 sprinklers, or a combination of both of them. Automatic deluge system and deluge wall, piping and nozzle are required for the water curtain system, and is used to make a virtual compartment. The additional, you get additional amount of water for fire in respect of the basement related fire. And that particular thing should be able to cater for about 60 minutes of functioning, and the largest compartment perimeter at one point, only one compartment will be there. And therefore these details are covered in the NBC very thoroughly. I would advise everybody to go through the document in very minute detail. And therefore water is exclusively for basement for water curtain system, having necessary pump and piping system. Thus, sprinkler-based compartmentation, whether we can do that, but that's a slightly costlier affair. Other methodologies are also equally there. So this requirement has got to be known. Equally, another important component is for metro stations and other related one. Compartmentation becomes an important area, which all of us have got to keep in view in a very large way. I would also like to get into some of the areas which are very, very important for all of us. And these particular issues relates to the way in which if it is not physical, what are the other options available? And those options which are available has got to be kept in the fire curtains that should be there. Separate that from the smoke curtains and what all the ways by which it can happen over there. And these are details available into the code over there. And air curtain as well as the water curtains. And this particular areas, how do we do that is covered into the code in a very large way. Especially those buildings are higher story heights. I'm sure this is going to come over there, especially larger IT buildings over there, data centers coming over there. You will have a logistics building with higher story height, slightly tendency for industrial and other assembly buildings. When you have heights which are more than about 4 meters, what are the ways by which you will be able to clear the water spray curtain and other related methodologies which are required to contain the fire and to create the actual compartmentation effect is another area that will have to be worked out in detail. The spread of fire, more than the fire, the smoke spread, which can go from a floor horizontally from one area to another or between one floor to another, which can through various situations, however much you take care, is also an area of concern to a large number of our buildings. I was just trying to have a look at some of the buildings where, like Siddharth Hotel fire, Amri Hospital fire, Ubhar Cinema fire, Siddharth Hotel fire, again Ubhar, our Vigyan Bhavan fire, other Chandigarh Semiconductor Unit fire. In all these cases, you'll be surprised to know that we had a very major concern of the spread coming because the compartmentation component has been not taken into account the degree it is required, which is now available. State of the knowledge is available now. Had we only done that, we should have had a much lesser impact of the fire spread into a very large way. These are details I'm sure our team will be getting into in mine detail. There's a big role for the designers of the building, the architects and the civil engineers in the beginning stages of the particular one before the MEPF consultants and the fire consultants come into a large way to give instead of passive but active responses to deal with that particular compartmentation effect becomes an important component. And I would like to lay emphasis that each one of them should have very good exposure on this aspect on the compartment issues, which they can use it very comfortably and very conveniently with small tips of knowledge on this particular area. The second major component on which I want to take a time because Warik Saab is there. He's also a regulator. He is the head of the MIDC fire. He is also the director of the Maharashtra Fire Service. Now, very important, each one of the state fire department require these particular plans to be approved. They will also ensure that have you created these compartments? Have you created the right level of details to contain the fire? So therefore, what is the process under which the compliance and enforcement mechanism can take place over there? While the fire consultant will work along with the architect and the engineer for submitting the building plans for approval on behalf of a builder or a real estate developer or a corporate client, etc., etc. You require somebody from the local body, a municipal corporation, or the NOC from the fire department to go into that at the building permit stage. Secondly, after the completion is over, before you get the occupancy permit, especially compartment comes into effect, especially if you're going to have all the fire curtains coming, you got to know they operate or not operate, etc. becomes an important one. The third level, I want to take it forward, is also what will happen to the building 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line. NBC provides for the renewal, periodic renewal certificate. The reason why you'll understand the requirement, if it is 3,000 for one building or 2,000 for one building, you make that into something which around 3,000, then your occupancy and the use changes and the requirements of this particular fire curtain, which are supposed to have done at lower space, is completely stopped. So you have to continuously see whether that they are not violated. Use, occupancy, and some of the requirements which are linked with that are taken into account. Number two, the systems which are there to ensure that it works as a compartment. Is it functional or not functional? The next major component will come. This next one is the link towards the escape routes. Another one is also another aspect of testing. Therefore, the issue of the renewal certificate, how close you want it, you want to do annual, once in 2 years, once in 3 years, it all depends on mechanism. And who will do that? Do you have, just like your structural engineers to give stability certificate, you have the electrical audit being done for the energy efficiency. Similarly, on the fire audit or on fire sufficiency, can we get accredited fire protection specialists to deal with this particular, to give that? But that becomes a very important tool which will help the enforcement mechanism. It will also help the architects, engineers, and the builders also to ensure. So that's also an important component. I'm left it towards the latter part of my presentation. My time is getting over. I shouldn't speak more. I'm sure you will have an array of two brilliant presentations coming from two of the outstanding practitioners in this particular area. One who was in the government sector, public sector, and knows about all aspects of the regulatory aspects, and the other one, a practitioner in terms of the designer input coming from the other side of the table. And that'll be a wonderful combination for all of us. I want to thank you very much for the patient hearing. I'm sure you will hear details of each one of the small nuggets I gave into very detailed presentation by our two distinguished speakers. Thank you once again for all the wonderful audience. I find we have about 234 people already gathered for this session on a Saturday morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful opening remarks from Mr. V. Suresh. And he's going to continue with us and also wish to participate in the question answer. So I will move on to the speaker of the day, Mr. Santosh S. Warik. He is the Chief Fire Officer and Fire Advisor of MIDC Fire Service and Director, Maharashtra Fire. He is a science graduate and engineering graduate from National Fire Service College, Nagpur, an MBA in finance and a law graduate. He is also an advocate. He has 28 years of experience in the field of fire prevention and protection. He has served on various positions in MIDC Fire Services. One of the architects in drafting India's first Maharashtra Fire Act, which is the most stringent fire act that was introduced in India, and many other states followed that. An expert in firefighting of various occupancies, implementation of fire prevention life safety measure as per National Building Code of India. He has successfully handled various industrial projects, especially townships, SEZs, and IT parks in Maharashtra. I welcome Santosh S. Warik.
Can you allow me to share the screen?
Yes, sir. You can share now, sir.
So today's a very important subject, fire compartmentation. Thank you, Dominic, for choosing this subject. And majority of the times, this is very ignored subject as far as from the architect point of view and the fire services point of view also, because it is not planned at the initial stage, unfortunately. And afterwards, when we wanted to create such type of compartmentation, then it is a very costly affair. So on this backdrop, I just wanted to go through the provisions, various provisions of new NBC 2016. So we will go through the definition first. The compartmentation. The compartmentation is a space within the building which is covered with the fire barrier or fire resistance walls on all sides, and including the flooring and the ceiling. So this is the definition given of compartmentation as per the terminologies given in 2.21 of Part 4 of National Building Code 2016. Then the fire barriers. The fire barrier is a vertical or horizontal aligned members such as wall or fire curtain or a floor. This may be discontinued after certain openings with a specified fire resistance rating. This fire resistance rating is very important, which such members are designed and constructed with the specified fire resistance rating to limit the spread of fire that also restrict the movement of smoke. We know smoke is a major killer in case of fire. Due to actual fire, there are physical damages, but the life loss is majority due to the smoke, that is the carbon monoxide coming out of as a product of combustion. Then the fire resistance wall, next definition given, fire resistance rating wall having opening with specified fire resistance rating which restrict the spread of fire from one part of the building to the another part of the same building. So within building, if the side walls or external walls or internal partition walls are provided that should have the sufficient fire rating of minimum 120 minutes or 2 hours. Then there is another component involved this time, that is the smoke compartment. This was not there in 2005. That is the space within a building enclosed by the smoke barriers on all sides. But there is note below it that the compartmentation only speaks about the fire barriers and fire resistance and not about the smoke barriers. To explain more about the smoke compartmentation and barriers, this is the diagram provided in the National Building Code Part 4, which encloses the escalators in malls basically, and in large hotels also you can find such type of arrangements wherein the smoke can travel vertically through any of the floor to the upper floors, and you can have the secondary fires. To restrict this provision is made where you can have the smoke barriers along with the escalators or the open passages or the atriums, and you have a sprinkler system attached to along carrying along with it, means provided along with it, so that in case of fire the hot smoke will come up to the sprinklers and the sprinklers will get activated immediately, and the smoke can be cooled down and the fire cannot be spread to the upper floors. So that is the intent of this smoke compartmentation. Before going to the other details, we have to first understand the basic concept of any building. Any structure which is having the load carrying capacity, it should stand in case of fire for a longer time. So that is the load bearing capacity or the capacity to withstand the fire in a particular building. Then second is the integrity of the building components, wherein if the fire is there in one compartment, it should not pass through the fire to the adjoining compartment through the cracks or holes or whatever the openings are, small openings are made available in that particular wall. So that is called the integrity of the building. Second is the insulation. So if the fire is there in one part, so your adjacent compartmentation gets heated up, and if any material is stored in adjoining compartment, that also get ignited. So that is the insulation. So these qualities are very much important for any building. So all passive fire protection is revolving around these three principles, that is the stability, integrity, and penetration of the material. So you can use different types of material, that may be including wood also you can use, or machinery you can use, brick walls or different types of material, glass, whatever it may be, but they should have these three important characteristics. Then we will come to the concept of compartmentalization, wherein any building having number of stories have the staircases, lift lobbies, then passages, and the storage areas or residential areas or shopping areas, whatever it may be, depending upon the occupancy of the building. They are compartmentalized into small areas, wherein if anything goes wrong in any of the compartment, that will contain in that particular pocket itself, so that whatever detection systems, sprinkler systems are provided in that compartment, that will come in picture action, and they will give you alarm, sprinkler will come in operation, and they will contain that fire in that particular compartment. The fire will not spread horizontally or vertically. So this is the normal scenario happens in any of the fire where the compartmentation is not there. In the origin of fire, fire will start in one compartment, and whatever the doors are, if not fire rated, the fire will travel through that doors to the adjoining compartment or to the passages. If the building is centralized air conditioned, then through the AC ducts provided in the building or through the false ceiling made available for carrying the various services, the fire will travel horizontally and vertically to the adjoining compartment. Also, it will spread vertically, or it can travel below also. In some incidences, we have normally fire travels upward, but in some cases, if it gets the fuel, then it can go down also. So what is the purpose of fire compartmentation? The compartmentation is a important element of passive fire protection. Without compartmentalization, passive fire protection cannot be achieved. By dividing the premises into small compartments through fire door, floors, ceiling, side walls of fire resistance construction. This fire resistance construction is very important feature of passive fire protection. Then fire stopping. There are various material available in the market which controls the fire, or depending upon which type of services you are carrying from one compartment to another, horizontally or vertically. There are materials available which can be used to seal this compartment. So that we will see afterwards. The compartmentation, again, it is a division of the building into the small compartment where smoke and hot gases cannot be traveled. So what are the main features of the compartmentation where you are required this compartmentation? Use of different types of occupancies of building. If you take example of some buildings where you have shopping malls at the ground floor or first floor, then you have residential one, or the business buildings above that. Second, malls where you have the assembly occupancy, then the retail shops are there, then you have entertainment areas or assembly areas. Such type of occupancy shall be segregated with the proper compartmentation. Fire load. A National Building Code Annexure A gives you the various calorific values of different material, where you can carry out the fire load calculation on any particular compartment. If the fire load is more, you can distribute the load into different compartments by segregating it. Height of the building. Height of the building is very challenging. If you go higher and higher, then you require more time for evacuation. So in such cases, it is very important to segregate the compartment where the fire is there and contain that, so that you will get more time for evacuation. The availability of the sprinklers. With the proper distribution of sprinklers, you can really, it is a three-dimensional extinguishing media. You can cool the fire, you can contain the fire, and you can cool down the smoke also. So the sprinkler is a very important feature in high-rise buildings. And for the compartmentation also, it's very much important. This is the table given in table 1 in National Building Code Part 4, wherein the different types of constructions are specified: type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. When you're talking about high-rise building or special buildings, only type 1 and type 2 constructions are recommended. And here they have specified the external walls, then internal walls, the fire enclosures, then internal barriers, then the walls, roofs of the type 1 construction and type 2 construction, wherein as far as compartmentation is concerned, the minimum requirement specified is 120 minutes or the 2 hours. For these details, details about the table 1, there is another annexure C attached to the part 4, wherein different material and their fire resistance is given in different tables. There are almost 8 to 9 tables attached in the annexure C of the part 4. We will go through the compartmentation as provided in the National Building Code for clause 4.5, wherein the building usually method to use the fire barriers. For instances, these fire barriers need to be penetrated for the duct working, plumbing, electrical systems, and in such cases, use of passive fire protection measures shall be done so that the integrity of these barriers is not compromised. This is very important part of the definition, wherein you have the fire rating walls, but when the services are crossing, like ducting, plumbing, or electrical ones, when the cables are passing through it, or plumbing pipes are passing through the any penetration, that should be properly sealed so that the fire resistance of 120 minutes shall be achieved. In case of fire, it should not travel from one compartment to another compartment through these openings. So that is the intent. The areas compartmentation is given as this. All the floors shall be compartmentalized or zoned with the area of each compartment being not more than 750 square meters. For all occupancies, it is a general statement. But if you are providing sprinklers, then there are some allowances given, as already told by Mr. V. Suresh sir. For basement where it is used only for car parking, it is 3,000. Basement, where for the other purposes, for the services or electrical installations are there, then it is 2,000. Institutional building, that is hospitals, it is 1,800. For the institutional other buildings, 1,125. Then the mercantile assembly and the assembly building, 2,000 square meters. Business, IT parks, such type of long spaces, 3,000 square meters. And for all other buildings, it is 750. There is again note provided below it for the industrial buildings where low, moderate, or high hazard. It should be as per the consultation with local fire service, where you have to respect the process. If you go through the steel industry, or if you go to the automobile industry, there is a continuous process, and you cannot really have the compartment, foolproof compartment in industry, where the continuous process, where conveyor belts are moving up from one point to another. So normally in industries, there is a process called where is raw material is stored in one place, then the process is in the segregated through another compartment, and the finished good is stored in another compartment. So normally this three type of compartmentation, and small office areas or discussion areas are separated from the industrial building. Main is the utility building, wherein you have the all services, your boilers, your underground diesel storage tank, DG sets, electrical transformers. They are the stored or placed outside the building. There is again one standard IS 3594 for the warehousing and cold storage area, where the compartmentation is recommended as 750 square meters. But if you are going with the sprinkler system, it can be extended up to 2,250 square meters. So this is the requirement from the individual standard. So already we have seen the requirement of compartmentation of 750. But if the floor plate is of only 750, then you should not compartmentalize into two compartments as per the requirement of code. Then you can have a single compartment of 750 square meters. And all the components of the compartment should have the minimum fire resistance rating of 120 minutes. There is another requirement in annexure H for the car parking facilities provided, which is also touched by Mr. V. Suresh has already touched upon it. It is giving the requirement of water curtains for compartmentalization of huge car parking areas, where we have the floor plate maybe of the basement up to 30,000 or 40,000 square meters also. Then there is a requirement again given in the metro stations. Metro stations are coming up in majority of the all tier 1 and tier 2 cities, or metro cities or sub metros in India, wherein underground metro station and above ground metros are coming up. So normally in metros, they have divided, if you go through the J6.2, there is requirement given for compartmentation of 120 minutes between the public areas and non-public areas, transit areas and non-transit areas, and the ancillary areas which are located 3 meters away from the trainways. So this is a table provided in that annexure, table 27, which speaks about the fire rating requirements in open station and in enclosed station. Also, it gives the requirement for the fire rating doors in the open station and enclosed station. Enclosed station means underground metros. So there are also auxiliary substations, electrical UPS rooms. There they have given the requirement for the 2 hours and 3 hours fire rating for the enclosures. Then there are different station managers rooms, and all details are given in this room. When we are talking about compartmentalization, the hospital building is a very important one, wherein horizontal evacuation is recommended, where you have the floor plate divided into 2 fire zones, basically compartment A and compartment B as shown in the diagram, where the fire doors are provided in between, and the fire resistance rating of 2 hours wall is there, and doors also having fire resistance rating of 2 hours, and both the compartment has a fire exit, so that in case of emergency, anything goes wrong in compartment A, the patients from that compartment A can be shifted to the fire compartment B, where they are comparatively safe, and whatever the detection system or sprinkler system available in the compartment A will come in action, and they will contain that fire. Or if the evacuation is required, that can be through the guided help of fire services or the trained personnel within the hospital. If in between what line you are means dividing into compartment A and B is a totally fire rated, all services passing through compartment A to B, they are sealed with 120 minutes fire rating walls or the fire barriers or passive fire protection systems. This is again example of the hospital building where in between arrows, they are the fire doors, which converts the hospital floor plate into different fire zones, fire compartments. So this we can achieve with the aligning with the walls of the means maybe there will be consulting room, maybe wards, and the fire rated doors on the passage. By providing this, we can segregate the risk, and we can have the different size of compartmentation depending upon the floor plate size. This is another example wherein the common corridor connecting the different staircases are dividing this floor plate into two compartments, and the walls passing through the common passages, they are fire rated walls. All the staircases are fire rated again with 2 hours fire rating, and the fire doors are provided for this. So this is another example given in National Building Code wherein you can have the compartmentation similar to this. This is the very important feature which was introduced in the 2005 NBC, but with diagram this time they have made it clear how the fire tower or firefighter shaft should be. First time NBC has think about the firefighters which are responding to the fire emergencies and going for the firefighting and rescue operation. This is very important feature for all high-rise building. And when we are talking about the high-rise building above 100 meters, this feature is of very much important from the safety of occupant also, and for the evacuation of the occupants, and also for the firefighters to reach on the upper floors. So this is the fire tower wherein from the common passage you are entering into this fire tower through fire door having 2 hours fire resistance. It has got one fire lift, one fire escape staircase, and wet riser with hose hole and the talkback facility, and the detailed layout plan of the floor. So this helps the firefighters to reach on the seat of fire for doing the firefighting, also for carrying out the guided evacuation. This lift can be used for the evacuation also. And this entire thing is pressurized with the positive pressure so that no heat and smoke can enter in this fire tower. So if you see the violet color line on this drawing, which is as a compartment, this is a normal residential layout having the flats on a particular floor, and they are protected with the fire doors so that anything goes wrong in any of the flat, no heat and smoke will come in the common passages where the staircases are located, and you will get more time for evacuation or the firefighters to reach up to that the seat of fire. So that is the intent of the fire compartmentation in the residential buildings also, or you can utilize the same in the hotel buildings also, where you have a common passage and a number of rooms. So every fire door should be provided on each hotel room, so you can limit the spread of heat and smoke. The advantages of compartmentalization. It helps to contain the fire in the origin of the seat of the origin or that compartment, limit the potential size and the product of combustion, because it is a smothering fire, you can say no further escalation of fire can be possible because the activation of sprinklers. Then the spread of fire in the different levels, that is restricted. The safe evacuation of exit passages, evacuation means and refuge areas. So that is again advantage of the compartmentalization. Then limit the building collapse. So every building, if when it is exposed to fire, it should remain there for the greater time, so that all evacuation and firefighting and rescue operation can be done without any problem. So that can be achieved with this compartmentation. Improves the integrity, stability that we have already discussed of the building. so it will remain intact for the longer time. Then providing sufficient time for the evacuation and for the firefighters to reach up to the upper floors for carrying out firefighting and rescue operation. So this is the normal scenario in case of fire. It is called as a stack effect. From the any origin of the fire, heat and smoke will travel to the common passages and it will go to the upward direction to the upper side, and it will create a secondary fire on the top position if the smoke and heat don't get dissipated from the building. So normally we provide the ventilation system at the top of the building, that may be atrium or high-rise buildings or the lift machine rooms where you can ventilate the smoke. Second option figure is the wind. Due to wind, if the fire and smoke is coming out of from the windows, and it is, we call it as a leapfrog effect. From external side, fire is traveling from the one floor to the another floor. So that also can be curtailed or restricted if we have the proper compartmentalization. These are the normal effect. Fire is there in the bottom compartment, and through window it is spreading on the upper floors. If there is opening from the windows or any of the services, then definitely fire will spread on the upper floor. On the right hand side, this is the normal scenario of cladding, which is used normally in majority of the IT parks or now in the residential buildings, also high-rise residential building. If the gap between the structural component and the glass is not properly sealed with the fire-rated component or the glass wool, then the fire may travel through these gaps on the upper floors. The Grenfell fire in London was the example of this incident. Then again, same internal spread of the fire and the exposure hazard, that is the radiant heat. Fire can spread internally through the conduction, convection, and radiation. Also, it can spread to the adjoining. We called it as an exposure hazard point of view. That also sometimes affect the adjacent property, may set on fire. So how compartmentation can be achieved? So we have to use the proper fire retardant material, such as, means it should be an entire assembly. Only if you are going for the fire doors and the remaining part of the wall is not up to 2 hours fire rated, only fire door is 2 hours fire rated, then it is of no use. And definitely in case of fire, fire will penetrate through the compartment and it will pass to the adjoining one. Second is the ventilation system is very important for the basement, which was also touched by V. Suresh sir, wherein you should have the fire rated ducting system passing through. There are 3 levels or 4 levels of basement now available. There are cutouts provided from where you can have the exhaust for the independent basement, and it is taken out hot heat and smoke from the basement, and it is sent to the environment or the exhaust through the exhaust system. But this system should be totally fire rated one. All ducting, everything, fans should have the fire resistance rating, so that it will the heat and smoke will not communicate with the other basements, and you can have the proper fire dampers also if it is mechanically ventilated. The fire stoppings which are used for this sealing of these ducts, cables, electrical wiring, telephone cables, fiber optic, or whatever services passing through horizontally or vertical should have the 2 hours fire resistance minimum, and they should have the proper functioning and testing certificate to that effect. So that is very much important as far as fire compartmentalization is concerned. So we will go through the different types of such type of services. Electrical ones or plumbing ones are passed through the compartment or different floors, and you can see the glazing. Also, you can see the ducting, horizontal ones, and which has to be totally sealed at particular level. And in addition to that, you should have the fire doors and ventilation system and the sprinkler system in the compartment to contain that particular fire. So this is the example of how the plumbing is passed through the different compartment horizontally and vertically, and everywhere the fire stops or fire sealants shall be used to contain the fire. In case of fire, this will come in action and it will not allow fire to spread horizontally and vertically. This is the normal practice used for carrying the electrical uh, cables in high-rise buildings, where you have a duct, separate duct, and in that also you have bus bar like situation. Different services are passing through the ducts, that electrical ones or fiber optic or any IT related things. So this is the inspection door which should have the fire resistance rating. Then this is the normal scenario wherein the fire retardant sealings or sealants are used in the duct, so that whatever services going on, electrical one, fiber optics or plumbing, that can be in case of fire, they may get melt, or due to fire, they will give the holes or penetration available in the compartment. But the sealants will come in action and they will seal the openings, and they will give the minimum 120 minutes fire rating. So these are the normal practices adopted in high-rise buildings, IT parks and data centers. I have seen this. These are the again examples how the vertical services are properly sealed. One. These are the air conditioning ducts which are covered with the claddings. They are the fire rated claddings, wherein you can use this for the removal of hot gases and the smoke from the various compartments. So these are some examples wherein how the normal situation without any compartmentalization, how the penetration is done. There is no sealant use, no fire barriers are used, and haphazardly cables and the services are passed from one compartment to another compartment. This is again glass pools are used, but they are not properly sealed. Number of services, air conditioning ducts, then your cables, electrical cables, fiber optic cables, they are passing as it is with the holes. See, anything goes wrong, definitely they will pass heat and smoke. This is, they have spent money for the passive fire protection system, but workmanship is very poor. So it is not means of any use. Definitely in case of fire, the heat and smoke will pass from one compartment to another. This is the example of fire door, which is having a gap in between. So this fire door is of no use. It will definitely pass heat and smoke from one compartment to another. The overlapping is not there. And such type of so-called or Me Too products are available in the market, where that is of no use in case of real emergencies. So these are the examples of how the things are done, but it should be done with the proper trained and qualified engineer or installer having knowledge of passive fire protection system, so that in real emergency, the system will work and it can save precious human life and property. So second thing is, in majority of the industrial buildings, the iron rods or the I-beams are used for the loading purposes. So if anything goes wrong in case of fire, that heat and will due to the conduction, convection and radiation, the heat will means affect the steel bars and it will lose its strength, and it is a possibility that structure may fall down. So to avoid that, we should protect these main members or the supporting members of the steel in industries. That may be achieved by using the claddings. Such type of claddings are used in the industries to protect that, so that for the longer time they will sustain. And from the business continuity point of view also, this is very important. Now the paints are also available. You can apply the paints also on this. That will give you the 120 minutes or 4 hours fire rating. So these are the normal steel protection used in warehousing and major industrial buildings where the potential risks are more or high hazard activities are carried out. Again, you can have the any of the old timber mats or beams or columns. You can protect with the separate cladding by giving the layer of the fire resistance material having a rating of 120 minutes. So these are the I-beams protected with the fire resistance cladding. And in case of fire, this cladding will give you more time. So the heat and will not reach to the I-beams. This is the industrial type of a warehouse kind of a building normally use sheds, and you can have the proper walls for restricting the spread of heat and smoke from one compartment to another, and you can segregate the risk in the industrial and warehousing where you have different commodities for the storage purposes. And that everything should be, as mentioned by Mr. V. Suresh, it should be governed by the travel distance also and the occupant load also. So these two features are also go hand to hand with the compartmentalization. Normally different types of occupancy where you have the assembly occupancy, then mercantile and the business occupancy. So you can segregate this. Normally this happens in mall buildings, or there are major buildings where you have a podium kind of a thing and a ground level shopping areas, then car parking for podium, and then again on the top of the building there are business buildings or residential building. So in this you should have the proper compartmentalization. The conclusion of my presentation is passive fire protection is really important for the safety of the occupant and also for the firefighters also who are responding to the fire. So at the initial stage, at the planning stage, if all architects or civil engineers or the developers, they spend some time for the use of building and segregate the different compartment, and they should plan it from the means at the initial stage itself. Second thing, if they go for the passive, the sealant or proper tested material, then they are investing initially a surplus amount, but in long terms, definitely it will help for giving more protection to the building. And they can really market. Now it is a high time when you are going above 100 meters, number of buildings are coming up in many metros, above 100 and many metros also. So it is high time to go for the passive kind of a system, which is now well spelled in part 4. So the passive thing will give you more safety to the occupant, and it will limit the spread of heat and smoke in one particular compartment. And also it will help the firefighters for carrying out effective rescue operations and firefighting operation. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much. Dom.
Dominic? Yeah.
And video. Then
Your volume?
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm unmuted. So we have the sir. Thank you, Mr. Varik. It was a wonderful insight, and you touched upon very important subject. And I think I have some almost 30 questions to you by the
Rightly. Go ahead.
So I don't know how many you want to answer. Is a graduate in civil engineering from BIT College of Karnataka, Kuvempu University in 1997, and is obtained MTech in environmental engineering from SJCE College, Mysore in 2001. He is the current director of Maple Engineering Design Services India Private Limited. He was engaged in civil environmental engineering with HAL for 1 year training, and associated with Techline Green Environmental Consultant as an environmental engineer. During his tenure, he executed many projects for sewage treatment plant and water treatment plant design and installation work. He also developed a software to design a sewage treatment plant unit as a thesis for his master's degree. He was instrumental in designing a various projects highly sophisticated in nature. During his tenure, he has designed many landmark projects, design in plumbing system, for commercial complexes, IT campuses, residential townships, high-rise apartment, hotels, and hospitals. He has carried out a number of projects for various institutions and clients in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, and Mumbai, as well as other parts of the country. Design, plumbing, fire protection, industrial system, including water and sewage treatment plants for hotels and hospitals, software building, and software parks. Golf courses and commercial building in coordination with reputed Indian architects and developer. Today, Mr. Prasanna Kumar is going to touch upon the challenges of implementing the compartmentation spaces. What does the architect talks about it? What is a builder? So he's going to present on various aspects, and also he's going to attend a lot of questions on the challenges of implementation. Over to Prasanna Kumar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can I share the screen?
Yeah, you can share. You have 30 minutes, Prasanna.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I'll be talking on the compartmentation of spaces in the buildings as per the National Building Code 2016. Mr. Suresh Saab and Mr. Varis Saab has already briefed a lot of information on the National Building Code, what it briefs, the code, what it tells on the compartmentation of the spaces to be done in various occupancies. So I'll be just briefing on the requirement of compartmentation and the briefing of compartmentation. But majorly, I'll be working towards the architects, developers, and from as I am an MEP consultant, what we daily face the challenges in designing, in implementing these codes. So we have some concerns in whenever we start implementing the code lines to the existing buildings or the live projects, what is happening. 100% the compartmentation is a very advantageous, but how to implement effectively such that it works as per the code or based on the code compliances. So we talked on the compartmentation. So what is a compartmentation? Very, very general line. It is a line has to be defined to control the fire or the smoke spreading to the next area. It's basically the definitions, what the NBC has given, Mr. Varik Sab has briefed it. So compartmentation is basically the passive fire protection, which has to built within the part of the floor area such that the spread will not happen. How to achieve the compartmentation? Compartmentation can be achieved by the fire doors, the fire resistance floors, the walls, and we can use the curtains, the water curtains. And also there are the services. When we work as an MEP consultant, there are the services crossing from one compartment to another compartment called as a penetrates, which can be also to be stopped, or the fire stoppers to be used. So the main objective of the fire compartmentation is to avoid the rapid spread of the fire. It cannot be done at the when the incident happened, the fire happened at that time, the containment cannot be done. It's very difficult to do that. But doing the containment during the design or built within the building will always help the extinguishing of the fire. So what are the main, we as a designer, we look at the compartmentation in three major ways. One is human safety, another is the loss prevention, and quicker extinguishment. So these are the three parameters we are looking at the safeguarding the building and the humans and the properties whenever the fire happens. So why the importance is given is because the fire can spread very quickly. I'll tell you the very small incidents like within a 30 seconds, the room can be filled with the smoke or with the fire if it is not controlled or if the extinguishing is not starting. The technical reason of the fire going out of control or the faster spreading is the heat. It eats the air surrounding the fire, and the hot air, as a technically, it moves upward towards the ceiling and it starts spreading to the next areas. The smoke is the one which starts transferring faster, then the fire follows that one. So the protection happens in two ways. One is the active protection, another is the passive protection. So active protection is mainly on the sprinklers, the alarm system, the smoke evacuations, the extinguishers, what we use in our designs as per the codes. But passive fire protection will help us to contain the spread of fire and smoke to the one area, which helps the active protection to take action very fastly and get the control on the fire immediately without any or major loss preventions. Like the passive protections, we have the smoke dampers, fire rated walls, fire doors, fire curtains as a passive fire protection systems. So the occupancy wise, the compartmentations are briefed in the code. Mr. Varik Sab has run on the what all the areas, how much areas to be done, how the occupancy, the residential occupancy, business occupancy, mercantile occupancy, how the compartment areas to be allocated are to be planned. But additional to this, there are the fire rated areas to be done, because these are the common areas like the stairwells, lift lobbies, the corridors. These are to be protected. These are the helps us to evacuate the people from the building. Other than that, the hazardous locations like the electrical rooms, DG rooms, the communication rooms, and the transformer yard areas. If there are many projects has the transformers, indoor transformers. So the protection of these areas, I call it them as a not a fire spreading. They are like a bombs. So they will multiply the fire into more higher denser. So these areas need to be protected as with the proper fire rating elements. So the National Building Code and many of the international codes very clearly specified the compartmentation requirement for the different occupancies and the building components. The National Building Code till 2016 was not much strong on the mentioning strong on the requirement of the compartmentation, but in 2016 the very much clarity has come on the compartmentation. So the National Building Code requirement on the compartmentation we already discussed earlier now. So the area is 750 square meter. There's a lot of question asked by my clients. The why 750 to 3000? Why 2000? So these are the areas, the fraternities keep on discussing on these areas, but there is a discussion happening how the areas are achieved, how the areas can be increased or decreased. These areas are still under discussion of fraternity. Just to brief on the things, up to 750 square meter, we don't need to do a compartmentation as per the code now. So up to 750 square meter, fire can be controlled or extinguishing can be taken. Above 750, up to the different areas given in the table, up to that it is a minimum of 2 compartment. There is no called as single compartment. From 750 to, if I take a the business class building tells 3000 square meter. So 750 to 3000, we need to do a minimum 2 compartments. So above 3000, it will be every 3000 one compartment will be added. Now the question I'll be raising in the next, this one is, so when the areas are lesser, when the areas are less than 3000, we have to make a minimum 2 compartments. That is one of the challenging what we are happening, because the market has a lot of small floor plates buildings in the usage. So before going to there, I'll just touch upon the type of compartmentation what we generally do in the areas. One is on the upper levels or the occupancy levels, we use the fire curtains or the fire rated walls to separate the fire, or we use a water curtains in the parking area where the drainage can be done very easily. We use the water curtains to avoid the spread of fires. How the technically the integration or the working of fire curtains, the water curtains will happen through the sprinklers and the flow switches. The fire curtains will be integrated with the fire alarm systems. I was talking on the smaller floor plate and the challenges. The challenges are here is the urban areas generally have a very high demand for 1500 to 2000 square meter of floor plate. So we can see many buildings, many commercial buildings coming up with these areas, one floor plate, such that the end user can occupy the building. As per the code, we need to make a 2 compartments, and each compartment need to have a fire tower. This is what the codal statement. When we try to make it, because when the smaller floor plates are planned, we have to provide the minimum requirement of utility rooms like the electrical room, AHU rooms, the toilets. We have to make, which occupies around 15% of the floor area, and the lift, staircase, and lobbies will occupy to 5 to 8% of the area. But now when the smaller floor plates, we need to add the more fire towers, the more corridors. the designers or the architects are finding a little bit of tight hand on the innovative floor plates, and developers crimping on the reduction in the carpet areas. So the lot of the right side, I have put a small sketch there, how the restriction happens when we are making the compartmentation in the smaller floor plates. The local departments or the code allows us to use a single fire tower for less than 3000 under horizontal egress clause, such that I can allow from one compartment to another compartment using common corridor for person to evacuate. And second challenge what we have is we don't know the end user here. We don't know the tenants. So the tenant layouts are variables. The end user thinking is variable here. To establish the compartment line in the empty floor plate is literally a challenging, because when we establish this line during the obtaining the no objection certificate or during the occupancy certification, so this line will vary, and this line practically get diminished or will be erased when the a tenant starts coming into that, and the tenants changes every time from time to time, vacating the buildings. So these are very roughly I have put here. So for less than 3000 square meter, single fire tower, if it is given a provision, that would help, because some of the departments are allowing now, making a provision for the horizontal egress clause, that I create a common corridor and both compartment can access the common fire tower. It's only when the area is less than 3000. More than 3000, it will not be a concern, but less than 3000, there is a concern in the market. And as per the code, we have to connect the fire tower to the refugee area, a person to get evacuated, because refugee area is a very easy way of evacuation, which starts from 30 meter, 25 meter, it starts. But the concern here is when there is a smaller floor plates, we need to have a common corridors to evacuate both the compartments to the refugee areas. Now these corridors, we have to make a safe corridor. Because of floor plate smaller, there are a lot of service room doors opens to these corridors. I am highlighting based on my exposure with many projects now. I'm discussing with the architects and the developers how to make these like electrical room opens, the shaft opens to the corridors, how to make it as a safe corridor. So we end up in making the fire doors for all those areas. There is little bit of crimping happens because the cost keep on increasing, because when we make the corridor safe, there are a lot of doors or the shafts which we need to make it fire safer. And when we go to the parking areas, the code mentions the 3000 square meter can be compartmentalized with the water curtains. 3000 square meter is a number. I don't know how to implement this 3000 square meter here. What we are doing is, as of now, the built up area will be dividing by 3000 square meter. We are making the so many compartments. When there is a multi-level of basements, we have the 3 basement and 4 basements. In that condition, what happens? The number of compartments increases drastically. One of the example is one of my project, which has around 4 level of basement and huge floor plate area, has roughly around 60 compartments happening there. So it has a practical issue of getting the 60 compartments with the water curtains. And drawing these water curtain lines, the square or rectangular shaped basements are not much issue, but when the odd shape of the basement comes, drawing these lines is literally a challenge here. And one more thing is the areas, like we have a lot of sumps having there, the pump rooms having there, the STPs having in the compartment areas. Do we need to add these areas to the compartmentation? This is a general common question which comes from the architects and the developer side, because when the basement is there, there are a lot of service areas happening, and few areas are the sump only, there is no occupancy happening. Should we add those areas a part of compartment? This is a one question. And the next would be the ramps. The code need to brief much on the ramps, because the ramps gets connected from the lower level to higher level. It has, if it has a 3 basement, all the 3 basement, the ramps gets connected. Should we do the same compartmentation as we are doing in the escalators in the upper levels with the smoke barriers, or should we put it under one compartment, or should we have the edge sprinklers such that the fire will not get into the ramps? Because the vehicular movement will not be there, the ramps will become idle when there is a fire happening there. Only the staircases are used for the evacuation. And second thing on the parking level is the structural system. I'm touching on the practical things here. The structural systems has a capitals, the beams happening there. When we are putting the water curtains cannot be taken to the highest level of the slab because of the limitation. So when we limit it, the wide angle of opening of the water curtain will create a gap above the water curtain line, where the chances of smoke and fire spreading to the next compartment would be there. I think the code should little bit of emphasize on the what is the gap to be provided, or the water curtain is the one of the topmost layer. Below that, all other services need to happen. Some informations are required, because we are doing this in many of the projects now. We are finding a gap above, and we are finding the angle what it opens. The K23 nozzles, what has been suggested by the code, which has around 33 liters per minute of flow. And what we do is we take the biggest compartment and we put the total number of nozzles, uh, uh, sum it up all the flow there, and we make a 60 minutes of storage and a dedicated pump for the water curtain. I was explaining on one of the big project here. As per the code, the fresh air inlet and the exhaust need to be planned for every compartment, for every basement line. It is the biggest floor plate, which have a more number of compartments here. The building footprint is something like what I shown in the right side. The central portion, getting the fresh air and exhaust termination shafts at the ground level and podium level is really challenging, because it comes to the part of the interior of the building. Because the building height is somewhere around 20-25 floors, taking all the shafts up to the terrace level is literally a challenge for us, because such much capacity fans also need to be provided, and they will be passing through all the occupant areas. We have to terminate at the ground floor or the termination. So how we when we start doing the compartmentation, we see that at least one edge of the compartmentation is touching the periphery, such that the fresh air and exhaust ducts can be provided. And also we can't keep it together, we need to keep it in an opposite direction. That is a very advantageous. I can't keep my fresh air intake and the exhaust very close to each other, so I have to keep it at least away, little away from each other, and the things works fantastically. And the code, we feel the code need to give little more clarity on the fire towers in the basement. There is a statement in the code mentioning that the fire every compartment needs one fire tower. Now, when we go to the basement, we have more number of compartment compared to the upper levels. Upper levels may be 2 compartment, but when we go to the basement, the extended basement will be having a 7 to 8 compartments. The fire towers are limited from ground to above. They are coming below, but not compartment wise. So many compartment doesn't have a fire tower. Uh, the fire department, the fireman guy need to go to basement and access the evacuation process there, the occupancy to be evacuated, our fire tower should go there. That clarity is required. As of now, the basements compartment, all the compartment will not have the fire tower. Only ground and above are planned with the fire towers. So these are the additional requirements in the National Building Code, where it asks for the compartmentation additional that penetrates the service lines which are crossing from one compartment to another compartment need to use the fire stoppers. We have been using the fire stoppers here. We have been using the fire stoppers. If it is in like an flammable material, the PVC pipes or the cables which gets melted, these fire stoppers will seal the hole and will not allow the fire or smoke to travel from one compartment to another compartment. Now the challenge here is when the tenant comes, the tenants keep on changing. So they make the penetration, those penetration sealing, and those penetration keep on changing, because whenever the tenant changes, this will be happening. So controlling of these things is a challenge to the developers, because it is not it need to be monitored maybe every year, these penetrations and these passive protections also to be checked. And also the AHUs, the codal specification is compartment wise we should have any AHUs, and if it is very better to avoid the ducts moving from one compartment to another compartment. If it is unavoidable situation, we have to use the dampeners. Once again, the crimping in the market is the smaller floor plate, the cost of the AHUs. The bigger floor plate, yes, it is an advantage because the cost of the ducting, the size of ducting, everything will come down. In the basement, we use the air intake and exhaust compartment wise and the level wise. The compartment shall be divided with the self-closing fire doors. Here one more thing is when we design a base bare floor plate, these fire doors will not be active. When the end user tenant comes, fire doors will come, which the end user need to plan, and there should be some procedure to monitor the buildings every year or maybe every tenant changes. There should be some procedure for that one to be checked. The hospitals mentioned in the code is whenever we do a compartmentation, this the adjacent compartment should have a extra space provision for to accommodate the present one also, the adjoining compartment. The more spaces are required because we need to plan for the two compartment together in a single compartment, and one fire tower need to be planned for each compartment in business, assembly, and the mercantile. And basement car parking, I just discussed on this. K23 nozzles to be used, and additional water storage of 60 minutes should be planned with a dedicated pump. This has been already doing in the many of the projects now, and it is becoming a very advantageous for us to work on the compartmentation in the parking areas. And in the park, if the parking is in the stilt area, has a natural ventilation, it can be called as an open parking system, and compartments can be avoided. In this case, I need to bring one more challenge here is the bigger MLCPs, the wider MLCPs, which has a central cores are not accessed. But yes, as per the code, they are giving the 40% opening around the periphery uniformly. But the central core, because of the big floor, but the central core is not accessible. We have a tendency of the fire there. The jet fans are used for the, we are suggesting we have to use a mechanical ventilation for the central procedures to do the ventilation. When there is a compartmentation happens, the movement of the people who are stuck in the compartment, the code gives a clarity on this. That's called as an horizontal exits or the staging arrangement. The person can move from one compartment to another compartment or to the refugee area through the fire doors. So these fire doors should be 120 minutes fire rating with the fire resistant wall. That means whenever we plan a compartmentation, in case of any compartment under fire, the person can go to the adjacent compartment for an evacuation. Yes, under the traveling distance limiting to the whatever the occupancy as mentioned. So the on the kitchens, the commercial kitchens, which are very tend to happen the fire. So I am a little bit touched on this one. The compartmentations are very much required because majorly we see the fire in the kitchens. Other than the one is electrical gadgets which creates the fire, and another is the kitchens which are creating the fire. So commercial kitchens which are having a very good area with the open flame cooking or with no open flame cooking need to have a 60 minutes of fire resistance wall. That's what the code mentions. But kitchens are generally located below the service floors, and they need an accessing for the loading bays, for their material transfers. They need an access for the dining areas, for the the waiters to transfer the food and materials. But these kitchen areas making 60 minutes fire resistant, little bit of challenge here, and to locate it in a good condition there. And also the flue or the exhaust duct passes through the compartment. So there is an kitchen with a big exhaust duct will be there, which will be going up to the terrace level. So we have a preference to take it outside to the external walls. The reason is bringing it inside will create a much more fussy in the taking to the roof areas, because it has to pass through the guest areas. So we generally practice it to keep it to the external surface, such it goes to the roof area without creating any issues, because we can't use the dampers here when these ducts transfers from one compartment to another compartment moving to the terrace level. So I bring to the conclusion part here. I'll put it under one line mentioning that compartment is very, very important. I agree with the things and the codal requirements, but implementation has a challenges to putting these lines. And because the environment what we are working is a different one, we are creating a bare floor plate for the end users, the tenants, and who comes there is a person who is living there actually. And the fire incidents happens when he is there. So containing the fire in the origin area and implementing the passive fire protection is very, very important for evacuation, for fire extinguishing. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Oh, done, Prasanna?
Yes, sir.
You're finished with that? Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're on time. I think you exactly took 25 minutes, not 30 minutes. You've done a
Thank you.
good job.
Thank
What
you.
I'll do is now I'll put up a slide which is quite important one. What I got to understand now that BIS has made the Indian standard free of cost. So Mr. Sanjay Pant has just shared this information that earlier it was quite expensive for people to access. Now this Indian standards are available free of cost to all the citizens of this country. So those who are interested to have this, the link, please send me on WhatsApp. I will share you this link, and you can download. When you download, this is what you get. On the link. Sorry, I'm on that. So these are the various standards. There are almost 10 different standards of various technical committees has been published. Okay, well, let's move on. It's 12:30 now. Let's move on to the questions. We have almost 68 questions. I will very selectively choose these questions. I'm requesting our keynote speaker, Mr. V. Suresh, Mr. Warik, and Mr. Prasanna. Anyone could pick up to answer these questions. Okay, I'll move on to the first question from Mr. Sambandan Chokapa. So he's a very senior member who's been in the industry for some time. So his question is NBC insisting upon the fire-rated window curtains?
In NBC, actually, there are two parameters. If you go to the table 1, there are external facades or whatever the material they are using. It should have some rating depending upon the fire compartmentation of 3.7 meters or up to 9 meters. Or if the glass facades are used, you can have the protection of sprinklers. You can install sprinklers in 600 mm from the glass facade, so that in case of fire, the sprinkler will come in action and it will cool down the internal glass facade, so that the rating can be increased. So both the ways, if it is architect or developer's choice, whether they wanted to go for the fire rated glass wall of 2 hours, or they can extend the normal toughened glass with the use of sprinklers. So both options are available. Mr. Prasanna Kumar can he can also provide inputs on this. Normal practice.
Sir, the National Building Code doesn't specify anything specific to the window curtains. There is no such something specifically to the window curtains.
He must be talking about cloth curtain. Window curtains means he's talking about the tapestries as well as the blinds there. Only thing is the flame spread ratings of this particular material becomes an important component of class ABC. Otherwise, it kind of fire resistance by itself, but the flame spreadability rating is an important component in terms of the curtains, which are the cloth curtains. Otherwise, fire curtains, as he said very clearly, that gives the correct information. Let's go to the next.
Yeah, we need to be very crisp in the answer because we have 60 questions to answer. So we'll quickly run. So the next question from Nupura is asking for compartmentation guidelines for data center with respect to fire rating. Do we have for data center guidelines?
No, electronically data center, I don't think there is a specific compartmentation, but normally means whatever given with sprinklers or the business buildings or 3,000 square meters, you can have the compartmentation.
That's right. 3,000 square meters is the limit for the data center. Correct.
Yes,
your interpretation is right. Next.
It's under
Okay,
business building.
Mr. D.R. Shah is asking question, though Mr. Raman Kapoor tried to answer. He's asking, and I'm quite keen, differentiate between a smoke curtain and a fire curtain and its temperature rating. Differentiate between smoke
So
curtain and a
basic-
fire curtain.
So basically, I can tell that the application wise they are different. The smoke curtains will never come up to the floor level. The fire curtains has to reach the floor level.
Correct.
The smoke curtains are the only the barriers which are happening at the top 600 to 800 mm maximum, 450 to 600 mm maximum. The smoke barriers are also to activate the sprinklers there. They have to activate the sprinklers to cool the smoke. The fire rating wise, the temperature rating is not a thing there. They are used for different applications only. I mean,
Yeah, they have got different applications. One is for
Yeah.
the containment of the fire, the other one is for the spread of the smoke. Okay.
Okay, the next question from Mahavir. Can you please explain the calculation of fire load briefly?
Fire load, you have to go through the table provided at Annexure A of National Building Code Part 4, wherein the calorific value of different materials are mentioned. Then you have to take the whatever load of that particular compartment. If you are having a flat, you have the sofas, then wooden thing. So every calorific value into how many kgs. So that much fire load you have to identify in particular that floor. So then you have to segregate depending upon the use of the floor.
If I can expand beyond Santosh, that's an important query. Normally, depending upon the nature of occupancies that you have, the amount of combustible contents inside those particular building as given in the table will give an idea. Roughly, a residential building with the nature of thing coming, you can expect reasonably 1 to 2 hour fire severity coming over there. The moment you get onto a business building, it'll be about 3 hours fire severity. When you go into a hazardous or a retail or a merchandise area, you'll get into about 3 to 4 hours of fire severity. Fire severity would represent the amount of the fire load that will be coming in terms of combustible contents over there. So therefore, for each of those buildings, depending upon the fire severity of the particular building and the fire load that will be coming, the fire resistance rating for the roofs and walls and other related elements for each of the compartment should cover at least so much amount of fire resistance as the fire severity or the particular building over there. Incidentally, this is also covered in the columns and beams of the building. If you have buildings with a 4-hour fire, then the fire resistance rating for the cover for the column and beam should be important. That's the point that Mr. Warwick was telling on the integrity, structural integrity of the building he talked about. And that's an important component where because of the fire, the columns, beams and starts buckling by itself. So it's not able to have the integrity on that. So it's an important question. Details are available in the NBC. For more details, you can always be in touch with us.
Okay, next question from Meshwan Nalwade is asking, can you consider glass facade as a fire resistance wall or a fire resistance wall?
facade.
You take
Facade
it?
cannot-
You want to take Prasanna or?
So it is glass is not recommended when it is a common passage or leading to the staircase or any exit mode. Internal partition, yes, you can the fire rated glass are available in India, manufactured now in India. So solution is available, but it should not be used closing your exit routes or your refuge areas or the common path of travels. So that area you should avoid.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Correct.
possibly the question that he asked must be talking of the completely glazed building, wherein all your external walls, etc., could be structural glazing that's coming on that. And maybe you should be aware that the National Building Code 2016 has got a separate chapter called Part 6 Structural Design, and Section 8 is on the structural glazing aspect. And therefore, glazing becomes a wraparound for the whole building. And therefore, that's a wall. There is no other. So how do you design that particular one from fire resistance point of view has been covered in detail. And a 10% opening of those particular glasses is now introduced the 2016 version of the National Building Code for openable either horizontally or vertically. So top or bottom for extraction of the smoke or for the coming in of the fire brigade and other members to come into the building. So these provisions, if you deal with part 4 of the NBC as well as with the part 6 section 8, will give a good idea on application of glass in the building, as he said, for different particulars. One is a structural one, which are otherwise on partition, other related one. And as Warik Sahab rightly said, depending upon those situations, the degree of fire resistance required for the glass are also identified different qualities of glasses. Go ahead.
Okay, so next question from Radhakrishna. He's from Bangalore. Why every state has a different perception on implementation of compartmentation in commercial building? He says a different state has a different regulation.
It cannot have. Radhakrishna's understanding is wrong. There is only one understanding, is the National Building Code. Here each of the building compartment spaces identified. 1125, 2000, 2500, 3000, all have been given there. So all the states are now increasingly following the provisions of the NBC, even though there's a recommendatory document, by reference to the NBC as the implementing one under the Fire Services Act, and the provisions of the NBC will give a uniform value to deal with a particular one. It's a matter of interpretation at the local level. They want to put compartment local at a smaller one. But otherwise, as I understand, I'm sure Mr. Wari can clarify, because they have done the Maharashtra State Fire Service Act, wherein the provisions of the NBC is ditto utilized for implementation of that. So therefore, only one, unless any local municipal corporation, which they will not have the right level of guidance basis for deciding a lower compartment area than what is put in the NBC. NBC takes into account international best practices available, be it the provisions of the NFPA or the provisions of the British standards, Canadian fire codes, as well as other fire codes, etc. And whatever we have done over there, it reflects the best international practice. Warik sir, would you like to clarify more on that?
It is absolutely clear. Means NBC has got sufficient provisions for the different kind of occupancies. Only here, I think he is indicating the interpretation of the codal provision at grassroots level. So it is varies sometimes because of the awareness of the fire officers at that level. Different materials are nowadays used. The passive fire protection specifically, there are a handful of manufacturers in India and very few installers also. So based upon that, there may be that much awareness is not there up to that fire officers at, say, small municipal councils or corporation level. So that may be the issue he is raising at. But as far as majority of the international standards, what provisions have, same we have copied in the our code, and we are coming up with we have now BIS has got directly tied up with ISO. So whatever the ISO standards are there, we can adopt directly in our Indian standards. So based upon that, international best practices already coming up in our standards also. So
only area possibly, a caveat is that building code is a guiding document. Unless the State Fire Act adopts that as a document, then it becomes a mandatory document, not recommendatory. But the code, in all fairness, what they have done is they have said, in case the use as a guiding document, and you can adapt it or adopt it. There are two words. Adapt means you can make some local variations there. Adopt means fully no change there. But if you're going to adapt with some local variation coming over there, then you're going to give a reason why that particular small change I'm making. For example, the height of a building, 15 meters, 16 meters. There are some people who have made it slightly change, etc., etc. Some of the local level area. They're going to give a good reason why I'm making that particular change with good justification by the particular state government or a municipal corporation who wants to make a slight marginal change on that. But as Warik Sahab rightly said, by and large, everybody is using the NBC norms.
Yeah, I remember this question, sir, because he's interacted with me on this question, because architect says no compartmentation is required. Then I asked the CEO of Bangalore. He said, no, we follow the NBC guidelines. It is mandatory. Yeah. So there was a confusion because the architect saying no, our fire department said yes. Let's move on to the next question, sir. Mr. Gulshan Khurana is a very active member of BAS and also based out of Delhi. water curtain an effective means to contain fire and smoke within the compartment?
Yeah, I think the answer Varik can give.
Already, Mr. Prasanna Kumar has explained there. We
Yeah.
cannot have this foolproof mechanism. It is not a foolproof solution because there are gaps because pipes are crossing below the beams and columns. Sometimes there are gaps created in between, and due to the velocity also of water curtains, there is a means airways are created in the basement. And secondly, basement, if we are talking about 3-4 level of basement, the drainaging of this water means water collected at that particular basement level is also challenge. Secondly, in addition to whatever fire system you have, that is your hydrant, sprinkler, you have to calculate this additional load, and you should have a separate pumping for this, so that it should not affect your main system, main fire protection. So that is, it is a huge dead storage of water which created in the building, and it occupies huge spaces. And considering the scarcity of water in future also, it is not a proper solution. So we have to see the internationally, if they are by using the fire curtains, if you can segregate the things, or if the normal sprinklers are provided by using smoke barriers, if the sprinklers of that particular zone gets activated, because it is not possible to evacuate entire all means cars also. You don't know where their owners are, keys are not kept over there. So there are so many challenges in the basement, and visibility and reaching up to the seat of fire is very essential. So sprinkler is the more assured type of a system, fire protection system in the basement as compared to this water curtain or compartmentation.
Yes, sir. I agree with Mr. Varis. What is that? There are the gaps, the technical gaps are there. And more than the fire, we have a lot of other services crisscrossing this. We have the fresh air exhaust ducts, the jet fans, the electrical cable trays. So it can be a little more improvised version to putting the basements under protection zone.
So let's move on to Mr. Shankar Lingam question. Please address fire rating for industrial buildings such as compressor house, a steam turbine, shelter, etc.
So
as far as industrial buildings are, industrial buildings are concerned, normally the boiler houses, as per the respective, there is a central act, and implementation is done by the dish authorities or the boiler authorities of that particular state, wherein they recommend the 4 hours fire resistance wall from all 3 sides, and it should get open to the one side to the naturally ventilated. It should not communicate to the main building at all. There should not be any ventilation or window or door communicating from the boiler house to the your main building activity. Same is with the transformers or electrical ones. So if you have the transformer of any capacity having air cooled or oil cooled, then you should have the proper barrier around the 3 sides, and that should not communicate with your main building activity. There should be a sufficient space in between. That is the ideal, means we can say the segregation of risk in industries is very important, where, as I told you, there is a risk of the raw material, the flammability of that raw material. Depending upon that, if it is a solvent, then it should be stored in underground tanks. Nowadays, it is approved by the Chief Control of Explosives. Then secondly, the process areas, hazards of process areas, that should be segregated. And after finished goods, the finished goods also should be segregated in different compartments. So depending upon the potential, you have to have the hazard study of the industrial building. What are the potential hazards associated at every activity that you should isolate and try to make it in the different compartment. So this will give you more safe environment for the occupant, and from the business continuity point of view also, it is very important.
So let's move to a very important question by our friend Raman Kapoor. Is asking, there is a lot of confusion with the end clients on 750 square meter minimum compartment versus compartment size for basement with car park over 3,000 square meter.
I think it's already clarified by Prasanna Kumar. This question came before Prasanna Kumar really presented it.
This
I saw this came earlier. That's
Yes.
already answered. He has already given details. What does it mean for 750 and what does it mean 1000? Maybe Prasanna can once again take a minute more to clarify.
Sure, sir. The 750 square meter is the minimum compartment requirement. What has to be done where that table is not mentioning the areas, that is a 750. But table very clearly mentions the car parking areas are the any parking areas 3000 square meter. The parking areas to be 3000 and the basement without parking to be 2000. So this is very clear in the table. If it is the areas are between 750 to 3000. Then there is a note below clearly mentioning that minimum 2 compartment need to be done. So there is nothing called as single compartment when the area crosses 750 square meter.
Okay, Mr. Vinay Deshpande, he has put a lot of questions. So I'm picking a few of that. Is the fire rating specified is for integrity or insulation of fire barrier?
As far as structure is concerned, these three parameters are paramount important: stability, integrity, and penetration. So all these three features are, should be there. Then only you can say it is a properly fire rated compartment. So as far as means whatever the test carried out for the fire resistance test as per the Indian standards or any BIS or international standards. So they speaks about these three characteristics of material. That is the stability, integrity, and penetration. So if it is passes for that particular time, then only they give approval to that material. So I think these three should be there for any material. These three characteristics are very much important.
Sir, over to Milindrane from Mumbai. He's asking for water curtain system, what is the design density specified? How much area to be covered?
How much area should be covered means it is a basement area, whatever you have. So you have to cover compartmentation requirement with sprinkler. It is given in the code. If it is for the parking in the basement, it is 3000. If it is for the services, as told by Mr. Prasanna Kumar, you have to restrict up to 2000 square meters. So for 2000 square meters, you have to have a separate grid, separate pipeline going up to that water tank. So, and with the deluge wall, you have to see that that compartment will come in action. So it is a very tedious kind of a thing. If you are talking about 30,000,
I think Warwick sir, the functional requirement is given. This should be over and above the water required for firefighting separately, whatever required for the water. Number one. Number two, you also have a requirement that should be okay for 60 minutes of firefighting requirement. So you require a area-wise, how do you calculate? Number two, the time period for which you will have to be available, and this will be separate. I think these functional requirements put together will help you to decide on the amount of water storage needed. Okay?
Yes.
So let's move to Ashutosh question. Please elaborate the compartmentation aspect for mall building, that is D6 occupancy.
Small building or mall building?
Mall, MALL, mall.
Oh, like of course a mercantile building. You had a fire today morning just now on one of the malls.
He says D6 occupancy.
Yeah.
Sir, it is not a D6 occupancy. It's a mercantile or assembly is categorized as 2000 square meter. So the 2000 square meter is the compartmentation planning to be done.
There is a compartmentation requirement for the, see, if you are talking about mall, it is a mixed occupancy basically. You have malls, mercantile activity, assembly in the theaters, then there are food courts available. So depending upon the segregation of
mixed occupancy.
Yeah. That also you have to segregate with the 4 hours fire resistance and the internal compartmentation. Both the things you have to see.
But Warwick sir, as Prasanna rightly said, whether you take it as an assembly or a mercantile, in both cases, the limit is 2000 square meter. So there is no problem. There is no ambiguity on that. So decide that particularly 2000 square meter is a compartment. Full stop. Full stop. Go ahead.
Sir, Nitin is asking, I'm still not very clear on this question. Most of the hotels having a challenge of mechanical and electrical compartment. Please put some focus on it.
Mechanical electrical compartment? What is it?
Yeah, most of the hotels having a challenges of mechanical electrical compartment. I don't know what the question is. He's asking, is there any guidelines for compartmentation for electrical or mechanical? I don't know.
Unless he is talking of where your electrical substation, where transformer, generating set, and other related component, you have to take care of the emergency power, where your emergency power backup requirements on that. There is a requirement of a larger size emergency power requires compartmentation. That's also covered in the electrical installation chapter separately. And what type of installation needed to take care of the electrical fire, that has got to be separately brought out. But yeah, I do agree. That's a concentrated load coming on where all this particular hub will be there in the whole building. The heart of the building will be where from where generation and distribution will take place. And of course, some of those details which Warwick has given, as well as Prasanna has given, where all these conduits and other related things that go into building, which are electrical installation one, they should have the right level of protection in terms of the nature of cable and other related one. Of course, what you require for transformer, genset, etc., are details already available there. Would you like to add something more, sir? Warwick, sir?
Maybe he's talking about means air handling units and that.
That I tried. I touched upon air handling unit in my presentation briefly.
Yes.
That's why I did not repeat that. Electrical we didn't touch, so we thought we'll cover that.
Yes.
We are having distinguished presence of Mr. Bhavani Prasad himself, who is the chairman of the electrical installation of the NBC. I think he really touched about it in the last time on some of these concerns on wherever you have these type of installations are there. Fortunately, there are clarity, absolute clarity of provisions available in the code. All you have to do is get into the particular provisions on that.
Okay, sir. Vinay Deshpande again. A lot of questions. I'm going to take last question of his, but more relevant is asking: is there any qualification requirement for being a fire consultant? So, who can be a fire consultant?
I think this is a very important point, and that is the last point in my keynote. Unfortunately, Warwick as well as President did not touch over. This is a real matter. How do you deal with this particular component of dealing with the issue on, I just told, architects, engineers, structural engineers, MEP of mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and firefighting. F is a firefighting one, who has got to give you detailed advice regarding this particular one on that. The qualification institution of fire engineers, as well as the degree available from the National Fire Service College, and details are available. Since Maharashtra is one state where they started the work on accreditation of people to deal with the compliance on that. Would Warwick like to open out on that a little more?
There are two features. We in the Maharashtra Fire Prevention and Life Safety Measures Act 2006, we have the provisions of licensed agency. So there are three types of license what we issue. One is for the water-based systems, that is hydrant, sprinklers. Second is electrical ones, that is manual call point detection systems and all that. And third is the passive one, passive fire protection. So three types of license are available depending upon the turnover of that company, that is financial capability, number of cases they have handled. Based upon that, these things are issued. But he is talking about the audit and the fire protection engineer as a certified thing. I don't think that particular course is there. Now, Mr. Fire Advisor to the Government of India with, I think, some university, they have started a diploma course.
And degree also.
Yeah. So that is a new development. But no other fire act or the fire services, they are approving as a fire consultant or the fire protection
auditor.
Yeah, auditor.
Possibly the next version of the NBC 2000 NBC when it comes over the amendment, whatever, these details will become, because even on this, on the qualifications of all these professionals, be it an architect or engineer or structural engineer, town planner, urban designer, landscape architect, etc., etc. For all this mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and firefighting one, the concerned institutional bodies have certain amount of norms to deal with that. So the NBC in the 2016 version also talks about that in the forward for part 2 of the NBC really covers, including the Appendix A. Because there was certain amount of lack of clarity at that point of time, somewhere around 2015, and the courses which Warwick just now mentioned at the degree level as well as the diploma level, including the National Fire Service College, the type of output coming on that. So there was a little amount of best practice based on current practice being followed now. But over a period of time, I'm sure by the time the next one comes, you'll have absolute clarity like the civil engineers, the mechanical engineers, the electrical engineers, the air conditioning engineers, the public health engineers. You'll also have clarity on the fire protection engineers also. What should be the minimum qualification required for you to do that? That'll emerge out. At present, we are aware of certain amount of norms being done, which are there, which has got little amount of, it's not exactly black and white, little gray area. It's coming at this particular point of time, but that will also get, according to me, focused and clarified in the next 1 or 2 years' time.
So the very important question from Praveen Pawar on this storage go down, basically, is asking, is it necessary to have a compartment in 2 different storage area in an industry? Example, total area 4,000 square meter, 2
Yes.
storage area, one with rack, another with pallet. So is it mandatory by codes that these 2 areas should have separation wall in between, and sprinklers are provided in both areas?
Yes, it is required. Sprinklers are required because it says, if you go through the provisions of compartmentation, for storage building requirement is 750 square meter only. If you provide the sprinklers, you can extend it up to 2,250 square meters. If the floor plate is 4,000 square meters, then definitely it should be get divided into 2 compartments. And when we're talking about rack storages and the pallet. So if it is a rack, then there is a requirement of rack sprinklers also. If the height is more than 4.5 meters, rack height is going more than 4.5 meters, you have to provide the rack sprinklers also. And if the only pallet is there at ground level storages, then it can protect with the above ground. And it depends upon the K factor of the sprinklers will also differ depending upon what you are storing, whether it is stored in only pallets, whether it is in the corrugated boxes, or whether it is in the plastic boxes. So depending upon the type of material and how it is stored with which packing, so that also makes a difference.
Okay, sir, let's move to Ganesh. What is the maximum permissible evacuation time from topmost floor or farthest point to designated fire assembly space in case of fire accident?
So current NBC has done away with this. Previously, we used to say evacuation time 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and 2 minutes, depending upon type of construction. Now, if you are talking about a high-rise building of 100 meters, having 33 floors, it is not possible to evacuate within the 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So it is the time actually required from your farthest point. It is a travel distance from your.
Go ahead.
I think loss of signal. So I think we lost him.
I think Warwick has built on it the right way, and therefore up to a safe area. The idea is that you got to take them from the farthest point through the travel distance component, through the doors, including the corridors, up to a safe area like a fire tower or some area. It cannot be at the lowest most the point there, and that's where the component of the fire tower has been brought in over there in the NBC 2016 version. So I think it's
got connected.
Yeah.
So it is a comparative safety part of a thing, which on the horizontal evacuation you can say, or if you are reaching on the refuge area, it is a comparatively safety. Or if you are in the fire tower where it is pressurized.
Yeah, I mentioned about fire tower just now.
Yeah. So these are the places. These are the comparative safety on the floor. And once you come out on the ground, open to sky, that is ultimate safety from the fire. So you have to, it means how much time if it is a physically challenged person, he can be evacuated, which is pressurized from the 33 or 100 or above 100 meter building. If it is a normal evacuation, that may take 10 minutes or 15 minutes also, for it is a 7-story structure. So now the time has gone. Only you have to ensure that you should have the, if you take, you talking about Burj Khalifa, it is 1008-meter height. You cannot have the evacuation time within 10 minutes or so. So it is not possible. That criteria has gone. You have to see that by implementing passive fire protection, you have to give them a sufficient enhanced time for evacuation on the floor or through the fire tower. You can reach at ultimate safety.
Fire tower.
Yeah.
If I may clarify, since Warwick has mentioned about people handicapped and disadvantaged and all that, hospital building, it's a classic case wherein previously there was a limit of only, not you talk 100 meters, you can't do all that. You had a limit of up to 30 meters there, but NBC 2016 has brought in that you can make the healthcare building up to 45 meters. That's the maximum permitted, with the proviso that in the first 30 meters one, all the people who are in the ICU, who are in the operation, whose physical movements are restricted, who might be in a coma stage or other related stage, they should be in the lower 30 meters height. Well, the top 15 meters can be where active activities can take place there. So the biggest thing is how to take them from the farthest place to bring onto each one of the floor to a safe level, either through the refuge area or through a fire tower, from which the further evacuation takes place. But in as much as we are in an era of getting into more tall buildings over there, even though we have covered even up 200 meters, possibility of the lifts can never be at any point of time utilized for evacuation. But in the case of fire, don't use lift was a standard particular way it's covered. Even now that's a provision. But the situation is now, even the fireman's lift is provided for their movement to go up and down there. There is a possibility all over the world, including when tall buildings are coming, including fire evacuation lift for higher stories could also be coming very shortly. So these are all the new changes which are emerging, which of course requires very robust conditions that itself should not be dug through which the fire can spread. I mean, all the concern areas are covered. So escapes only through staircases, escapes only through ramps, you require so much amount of time. But this time is between each of the floor that you can come in about the time period, which is 3 minutes time, based on which all the exit widths of the staircases, all your corridor widths, all the door widths, etc., are calculated for evacuating the people, including travel distance, etc., are covered in the code. We leave it at that.
Yeah, let's move on to this question from Marianne D'Souza. What is the ratio of opening like windows, etc., according to a floor area of the building? How many windows can be provided for a room of 6 by 7 meters in a compartment systems? Number of windows that is required. Is any guideline on that?
Yeah, talking about
normally depending upon the building bylaws and codes in part 3 talks in terms of the area of a window required for a room normally, and that depends on the hot arid region and hot humid region. That's primarily from the point of lighting and ventilation point of view. And as I said, if you're going to have the glass related particular building coming, there's what is called a window to wall ratio, which is indicated, wherein the glass related window cannot be more than of the order of, they're given a percentage there. At the same time, a minimum 10% openable condition is put over there, which is again from fire safety point of view. I think these part 3 requirements and part 4 requirements and part 6 section 8 together, if you read together, you will get an idea, especially on window and openable areas point of view. One is the minimum from lighting and ventilation and air change point of view. Of course, you can make it a bit, it's a natural, you can get artificial also brought in. But even there, your requirements to ensure that the safety of the people have to be taken into account.
So we are now 1:10 p.m. I think we're running out of time. Still, we have around 56 questions to answer. So what I will do, I'll just pick up 3 questions out of this. Then later I'll forward this question to the speakers. They will email it to you at their convenient time, but I'll pick up 1 or 2 questions now. Sorry, 3 questions. So this question from Rajesh Shirke of Mumbai. what is the best maintenance and testing practice for fire dampers? Is there any IS codes for maintenance and testing?
Fire dampers.
I don't think any
No.
standard is there for
There is no
maintenance.
IS codes or maintenance and testing on dampers.
We'll check up and get back.
It's,
Mr. Prasanna Kumar can, if
yeah, that's what
Yeah,
the
go ahead, sir.
testing, sir, for the testing of dampers, the IS codes are there. I mean, the required IS codes, we can brief them. What is that? Under maintenance, there is no IS code. For testing, yes, there is an IS code for the dampers. We do whenever the installation happens, the testing of dampers are done as per the IS codes. We'll
But
get back to them
only-
on the numbers, sir.
But the only thing we can supplement to Prasanna Kumar's answer is that the NBC has got a new Part 12. Many may not know the first building code in the world, even now, which has brought in a thing called assets and facility management. Normally, as long as you get a completion certificate, given an occupancy certificate is over, the architect is gone, the engineer is gone, the builder is gone, everybody is gone. Then the building is looked after by Resident Welfare Society or by the Apartment Owners Association or Building Owners Association. The Part 12 brings a very important aspect that the safety becomes very, very important. That is the structural safety, fire safety, health safety, life safety, public safety, all these safeties are important. So therefore, keeping in view all these factors, the building code has, the buildings have to perform. It is not that what you do for getting the clearance, you got it cleared, but what will happen to a building 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line? How does all this perform is an important one. And it has got one particular section in Part 12 to deal with firefighting installations, etc. A checklist is there to see whether your sprinklers are working, detectors are working, your alarm systems are working, water is available, dampers are working, etc. And therefore, whatever periodic maintenance cycle should be there is covered in that. Normally, the assets and facility management company, if it's separate companies dealing with that, or if you're dealing with annual maintenance contract with any firefighting installation company, they'll have to put this particular requirement of what should be the particular time. But very necessary that when the fire takes, the damper should work. So therefore, continuous 24/7 zero tolerance, these are all zero tolerance item. Very, very importantly. There's no meaning saying I put a damper, it doesn't work when the fire takes place. No good. So therefore, we've got to really get in along with this particular installation agencies. But if the code does not have that particular things, as Prasanna says, I'm sure it's an area into which the requirement can come. Because if we in a building over there, you have structural, non-structural, finishing, and services installation. Each will have different type of guarantees and life period there. So we got to see from that point of view, your particular installation, maybe Part 12 of the NBC, the checklist, we'll have to go through in minute detail where dampers are covered. If so, how to cover that.
Sir, let's go to the consultant from Dubai is asking a simple question. What is a fire tower? So to Prasanna, what is fire tower?
The
Looks
fire
like
tower
in
is
Dubai, they
basically,
don't have dedicated fire
the fire
tower.
tower was earlier also in the National Building Code 2000. The fire tower is a staircase and a combination of a fireman's lift with well protected or pressurized area where he has an access to the fire hose reel and then a two-way talkback system for him to communicate. It's basically used by the fireman for the evacuation purpose. It's a dedicated grouping of the thing.
Still in a webinar, I'm answering.
And presently in NBC 2016, they're given a typical sketch also. How should be the fire tower should look like.
Sir, over to Raman Kapoor again. How to compartment assembly building like exhibition hall, conference hall that have very high ceiling like 12 meters and above? Very important question, sir.
Actually, I told you I'm in a webinar.
Prasanna, can you take this question for the assembly area like exhibition and conference hall or a marriage hall which has a high ceiling?
Sir, here there's a passive fire protection will help. You need to have the curtains here. So as per the assembly areas, every 2000 square meter, we can plan for an fire curtains here, which gets activated by the detectors or the beam detectors, the fire alarm system. These fire curtains can be planned. But yes, these fire curtains, when we plan, initially design should have the evacuation plan also. For every 2000 square meter, there should be an access for the person to get evacuated from the compartmented area, the contained area. So the fire curtains are the only one which can be done here. The only availability of in the market is an issue because the 12 meter, we don't have the fire curtains availability. The depth of the fire curtains are not available for that area. So that is a challenging here. Otherwise, the building, the walls will not have any solution for any assembly areas. It is a passive fire protection only to be done.
Okay, so let's move to the question from Mr. Dhananjay. Can you use triangular staircase for fire exit?
You mean
We
the
have used.
plan? The plan is being triangular one?
His question is very simple. Why not? Can we use triangular staircase for fire exit?
So we have
No,
used
actually.
we have used circular staircase, not the fire staircase.
I think the width is more important. According to
Yeah,
my
yeah.
understanding, according to my
No,
understanding,
circular staircase also only can limit up to 9 meters.
Yes,
Yeah.
9 meter.
I
Yes, sir.
think the
Yes.
important component is you should have uninterrupted the width of the particular staircase which is coming, wherein the movement cannot be restricted, not more than 12 steps in each of the flight length coming with a break coming. And if you are able to ensure the width of the thing coming, whether it's going to be pentagon or rectangular or octagon, that particular staircase configuration, I think the most important, or a dog leg which is mostly rectangular, all depends upon, are you able to have a continuous width of the particular movement for them to evacuate, and you don't have more than about 12 steps in each of the particular this one, and you have a break after that coming. I think it should be fine functionally. There shouldn't be any difficulty. It's all a matter of, only thing is you kind of skewed type of situations from where the evacuation becomes difficult. Most important thing is people should be able to move in the proper way in a ease, where one behind the other when the evacuation time, how they are able to perform well becomes the most important aspect on that. I don't know whether he has got a situation where a triangular staircase is to be put and local body says you can't put that. I don't know what is the concern at this point of time. But according to me, if the minimum width of the staircase can be maintained throughout the traverse in whichever formation of the space, rectangle or square or triangle or circular pentagon can come, I think it should be possible.
So the last question of the day from Sujan Nohan: is there any kind of compartmentalization method available for explosion hazard occupancy in NBC? Explosion hazard.
Clarified by Warwick Sahab already, but again, let him take it.
Explosion hazards. See, there are different standards available. Indian standards are there how to handle the explosion, and the explosions means there are explosives act is there, and there are provisions given in the rules also. So you have to go as per that. Means whatever building construction is there, then compartmentalization you have to go as per that. NBC is not governing this low hazard, moderate hazard, industrial and hazardous activities. So there is no directly provisions in the NBC for the explosion.
I think we lost you. I think
is so you have to go
probably
as
the
per the
power
chief
failure is
information
connected
officer.
on the data. I have still a lot of questions to ask. What I'll do is we will try and answer over email. I'll pick up this question and give it to the speakers. So as I said earlier, at their convenient time, they will try and answer your questions. So we are now 1:20 now. This has taken almost 2.5 hours. I cannot prolong on this. Lunchtime, people are hungry and angry. To close this session as quickly as possible, I must thank Mr. V. Suresh, the most energetic person in this in the forum, and I thank Mr. Prasanna Kumar. Wonderful, your wonderful insight on your PPT, and most humble person I have seen in the fire field, Mr. Santosh Warwick. Always say yes to anything. Thank you so much. I'm sure we could touch little things, not everything. Somewhere, we could have. I think we addressed few questions and we give a lot of clarity on compartment and spaces. There are a lot of suggestions coming on my WhatsApp and email. Certain
But
question being asked. A lot of suggestions.
Dominic, I want to congratulate you for taking a very difficult topic. This particular topic has never been taken up so far in any of the webinars or even big conferences by any of the agency. It's a difficult area, a very sensitive area, and a very important area. And I'm very happy on a topic like that, you've been able to identify large amount of points of view on that. Maybe this could be a very major which can be taken forward to cover specifically for some of the application area in more details in the light of all the questions which has come. So we want to congratulate you for the initiative. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. A lot of suggestion on staircase preservation. So there's somebody that why can't we have a dedicated webinar on staircase preservation?
Why
So
not?
we'll learn from this. So every webinar is a great learning for me. It's just a passion that is leading me to organize such a webinar. No product promotion, nothing, but it's a knowledge that we have been sharing. I welcome all the participants to participate in this upcoming next Saturday. Very interesting on the digital transformation. Okay, we have been speaking on the life safety, and this is something about technology. How you connect with people, how you connect your business, how you connect your people around through your smartphone. It will be by Jairam next week. Please do join. Once again, thank you all the audience, all the participants. Thank you, the panelists. Thank you once again. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Dominic.
Thank you, Suresh, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Maurice, sir.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
Wonderful
Thank you, sir.
getting associated with you. Brilliant presentation by Santosh and Prasanna, adding so much value.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The presentation can be loaded. For those who have participated, the presentation can be shared.
Yes, sir.
No
They have
problem,
given,
sir.
I will put it on PDF format and
Yeah.
with the permission of the
They only put PDF
speakers.
format, not editable format, only PDF format.
Yes, sir.
No problem, sir. You can.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dom.
Thank you.